Kadosh Boker Tov Masechet Ketubot Daf Bet Amud Aleph says the Gemara. We're talking about over here Orcha Deminta Kama, which means how long is it proper for a student to come and to abandon his wife? What does that mean to abandon his wife? Right? Until, for example, let's say he went right now and he asked for permission to go. So how long is he able to leave? Okay, so Amar Rav says, Chodesh kan v'chodesh b'bayit, a month and a month. A month, right, where he's learning, and a month in the house. Shneimar, but says in the Pasuk, he's talking about Bnei Yisrael, that they are serving, right, David HaMelech, lechol devar mechlekot ha'ba'ah, vayotzet chodesh v'chodesh l'chol chodshei hashana. So it's mashma that these take turns, 1 month, 1 month, 1 month, 1 month. So therefore, that's what he says is normal. Rabbi Yochanan, Rabbi Yochanan, so too, a student could go for 1 month, right, he takes off, comes back, stays a month with his wife, and then back like that, 1 month, 1 month. Okay? Fine. Says Rabbi Yochanan says, Chodesh kan u'shnayim bebeto. No, it's 1 month in the Bet Midrash and 2 months in his house. Shneimar, but there we're talking about, right, the 30,000 people that Shlomo Melech came and he sent to the Lebanon in order to cut etzim for the Binyan Bet Hamikdash. It says Chodesh yu b'Lebanon, shnayim chodashim bebeto. So it's going to be 1 month in Lebanon and 2 months in his house. So says the Gemara. So why didn't Rav actually learn from there? Which means why didn't Rav learn right from there that it could be 1 month and 2 months? So answers the Gemara, it's different. Because you could do it by other people. Meaning the fact that you could have it done by other people, so therefore you didn't need, right, that they should come and they should be more than 1 month, right, out of 3 months from their houses. Okay, Rabbi Yochanan, my time me. So why didn't Rabbi Yochanan say from there? Remember that we had a machlok between Rabbi Yochanan and right what we said from Rav. So he says, so why don't we learn right that it's enough just 1 month from 2 months? Why did he say 1 month and 3 months? So he comes and he says, Shane Hatam. It's different over there to do with the avodah of David HaMelech, Dile Harvacha, because he was taking reward, meaning he was getting paid for it. So for since he was also making money, so therefore she's willing to do it. That it's 1 month out of 2 months. However, though, before we were talking about for Talmud Torah, he's not making any money from it. So therefore, if it's that he's making a salary and therefore he's giving the salary to his wife, meaning that he's supporting his family, so therefore the woman would be able to resist and say, you know what, okay, fine, 1 month in, 1 month out, 1 month, 1 month, one, it makes sense. But if it's going to be that his stam is going to learn Torah, maybe he's not willing to do 1 month, 1 month. Maybe it's only 1 month and 2 months. You understand? Okay. So Amar Rav comes and he says,
that's expecting that he only takes care of the economical part.
Amar Rav comes and he says, Anacha shoveret chetzi gufo shel adam. Right? Do you know that if a person is, Anacha is, when the person sighs, what's that called? He's like, yeah, like something like that. He's, I don't know, I forgot how you say it in English. It's basically that when a person comes and he's like, oh, like he's
an explanation of
חצי גופו של אדם, שאמר ואתה בן אדם הענך, ושברון מותריים מילות הענך. רב יוחנן says, אף כל גופו, because we just said that it's שוברת חצי גופו. says רב יוחנן, כל גופו של אדם. שנאמר ויקי יאמרו לך, על מה אתה נאנח? Right? What are you sighing for? Right? I remember many times, right, somebody used to go, oh, I don't know what, and many were like, oh, or something like that. And one of my rabbanim used to tell us, what are you sighing for? Like, what? You have such a terrible life that you're coming, right? And you're sighing. Like, what's exactly going on? So he says, so he says, El Shemua kiba, by the Shemua that came. So he says, he says, so it's mashma that's destroying the entire namas kolev, the heart, yadayim, right? They became weak, and the ruach, so the entire body is being destroyed from these people that they come and they sigh. They're like it's complainers. It's like like that. So that's what's gonna happen. Rabbi Yochanan comes and he says, yeah, active. It's written b'shivron motnaim. Yeah, what does that mean b'shivron motnaim? He says it's mashma that anacha is not breaking half the roof, only shivron motnaim. So answers the Gemara, ahi ma. When it's going to start to break the body, it starts from the motnaim. Meaning it starts from the motnaim and it continues for the rest of the goof. Rav Nami active, but Rav it's written, "V'ramas kol lev v'rafu kol yadayim v'chiyata kol ruach." Yeah, you understand? I mean, for Rav it is written. Look how many other things, not only just one thing. It says no. Shanu Shumuad Bet Hamikdash. There was talking about the Churban Bet Hamikdash, and the Churban Bet Hamikdash, the Takif Atuv is so powerful. Only an anacha for the destruction of Bet Hamikdash will destroy, right, the body. You understand? But a regular anacha, it could only break half the roof. Capish? You understood? Meaning, if it's a Bet Hamikdash and you're so worried and you're so, you feel so much about Bet Hamikdash, there it will destroy the entire body. If it's just going to be stam, that's only going to be chetzi gufa. Yeah? Hahu Yisrael ve'oved kochavim. There was a Jew and a goy. They were going together. So the goy cannot go with the Israel, right, at the same pace. Meaning the Jew was too quick. Yeah? You know what he did? All he had to do was he reminded him of the destruction of the Bet HaMikdash. Nagid vitznach. And then the Jew went and he sighed. And still, the goy was still not able to catch up to him. That means, you don't understand what happened?
No.
He went, the goy and the Jew are going together. They're walking on the path. The goy can't keep up. So what does he do? He reminds him of the destruction of Bet HaMikdash. By reminding him of the destruction of Bet HaMikdash, he's going to sigh. He's going to feel bad. So all of a sudden now he gets into a bad mood. So what happens? He won't go as fast. Says the Gemara, that's exactly what he did. But even still, he still wasn't able to keep up with meaning the Jew did slow down, right? Because of just remembering the destruction of Bet HaMikdash, and obviously he sighed. And we just said that if you sigh, it destroys your body, right? It brings you down, right? That's like a type of a form of a depression. It's a form of that the person's sad. But what? Still he comes and he says he wasn't able to keep up with it. Elmaleh, the goy comes and he says it. It said to him, he says what? He says, doesn't the anacha destroy half your body? Elmaleh, he says, that's only something new. But here, we're already accustomed to it. No, it doesn't. A woman that she's always accustomed to losing her children, right? She's not going, if another child dies, it's no big deal. Meaning if a woman already has children that they die one after another, if an extra one dies, it's like she gets accustomed to it. So the same thing, the fact that a person comes and we're already accustomed to the destruction of Bet HaMikdash, right? So it's not the same. Meaning you're right, if it's something new about a bad news, the first time, so then you're right, it would destroy half the body, he would go much, much slower, everything. But he slowed down a little bit. It was ne'anach, but still the goy was not able to keep up to him. Right? Why? Because nowadays, bichlal and lo ne'anachim, right? Nowadays they don't even sigh. But you understand? Meaning that the sigh was an old sigh though. It wasn't a new sigh. Fine. Next, ta'ilim b'chol yom. Some people they metayel kol hayom. So since they're metayel kol hayom, you understand? They come, they have time to do this, exercise this. They might work maybe, whatever it is, right? But kilo kavana, right? They're tayalim, right? So the metayelin, the chol yom. Tayelin are the people that they don't work. They just metayel kol hayom. Yeah. So what happens? Kol yom. With
their wife. No, because she also has to accept that.
The Gemara. Tayalim. What are tayalim exactly? Amar Rava says, Bene Pirke. These are Talmidei Shiur, which are Talmidim that their rabbis are found in the city, and every single year they come to learn with them. But then they go home they go home every single night. So since they go to sleep at their house every single night, they're obligated Nishamesh mitatam every single day. So not only mita, right? People that they learn. And you go home every single night. That's it. Yeah? So he says, Elmaleh, Abai comes and he says, Man dichtiv behu. Somebody that's written by him, Shav lachem ashkim ekum ma'acharei shevet. Which means that you guys are not waking, it's like it's lechinam, all your work and everything. Do you wake up so early for your work? Ochle lechem atzavim, that you're eating lechem, right? With so much, you're eating your bread with so much of toil and everything. Ken iten Hashem lididot peshena, so HaKadosh Baruch Hu will give parnasah to his friends, right? Sleep. The Amar of Yitzhak, Elu neshotehen shel talmidei hachamim. These are the wives of the talmidei hachamim, shemenadedot shena menehem ba'olam hazeh, that they're taking away their sleep from their eyes in this world, which means that they're waiting for their husbands to come home from the Bet HaMidrash late at night. Ubaot lechaye olam haba, and they get olam haba. So it comes out from here. The Bnei Pirkei are the ones that they are learning in front of the rabbis, but they don't go to sleep at home, but rather they go, and even in the nighttime until everyone else is sleeping. So they come home very, very, very late at night, and their wives don't go to sleep. You understand? Their wives will wait up for their husbands until what? Until they come back home. So he comes and he says, "Ve'ata Marta." Now you're telling me that the Tayalim is Bnei Pirkei. But rather Abaye says, Kederav. It's like Rav. What does that mean? From here, we're learning also a derech eretz. The derech eretz is that right now, if the husband is coming and he's coming home late because there's a mishmar, whatever it is, and he's staying up, it's derech eretz that the wife stays up until the husband comes home. Yeah. Yes, exactly. She has a reward. Where's the reward? Ba'olam haba. Right? In olam haba. Yeah. Even with that. Menadedot shena menehem. She's taking away sleep from her eyes. So says the Gemara Elmaleh. Right? Abaye says Abaye. Kederav. It's like Rav. Rav says Kegon Shemuel, Rav Shemuel bar Shilat, like Rav Shemuel bar Shilat. Rav Shemuel bar Shilat was a teacher. He was a teacher of students, right? And that was his parnasah. That he was eating and drinking from himself. But he was right now coming to sleep, right, in his house, right? That means he was going mamash to sleep in his house, right? And there was no shliach of the king of Pras going to get any taxes from him because he wasn't considered like a person that was rich, right? Which means the people that are coming and they have their parnasah b'shalvam without yigia yitera. For example, Rosh Shmuel Bashilat, they are considered tayalim. So means the tayalim are the people that mamash. That means they're working, and they're not. I mean, they're working. They sleep in their house. They're tranquilo. But you don't have the tax collectors coming and getting but they're not considered like rich people. You understand? So we're all right? Kiata Ravina man. So when Ravin came from Eretz Israel to Babel, right? He went and he said like this, right? Kigon mefanke de ma'arava. What are we talking about? We're talking about the people like in Eretz Israel, which they are munagim ma'achal mishteh, and therefore, since they're always eating and drinking, they are very, very healthy, and they have koach l'shamesh b'chol yom. So basically, it all depends on what they eat. These people in Eretz Israel, they come. It says here they were muragim ma'achal mishteh. They had a lot of everything that they wanted. So he comes and he says tayalim is kipshutam lashon tiyul, but he says also it's because of oneg, right? So therefore they don't have to do torah. So therefore that's why. That means basically if they have a good diet, right, and they're so they have their strength. So b'chol yom b'chavo. Rabbi Avhu have a kaya b'bane. Rabbi Avhu was in the Bet HaMilchatz. So he had two avadim that they were tomchim bo. And all of a sudden, the ground started coming from underneath him. Right? So he says over here like this. So he says, Itra mele amuda, right? All of a sudden he had an amud, right? He had a pillar. Salik vaskinu. Right? He went up and he brought up the avadim with him, which means that with one hand, he grabbed the amud, and the other hand, he picked up the avadim with him. Right? So you see from here the what? Right? This is something incredible about the koach of the people of Bnei Eretz Yisrael, that he had the servants that they're serving him, but he had the strength to pick himself up with the amud and pick up another two people, right, with him. Okay, Rabbi Yochanan, have a kasali bedarga. Rabbi Yochanan was once going upstairs. Havusam chule Ravami Ravasi and Ravasi. They were picking him up. Ipachta targa tutute, and all of a sudden it broke. Right, the rung, which is the step of the ladder, it broke. The salik veskinu. Rabbi Yochanan went up on his own and he brought them up with him. Yeah? If it's like that, right, that he's such a bal koach, I don't understand you. You are being supported by two other people, meaning that you're putting your strength on two other people, they're supporting you. But you have the strength to actually come and pick them up. Well, what's going on then? So why do you get the support? What am I going to use for my old age? Which means he was preserving his strength, that he didn't want to use all his strength now. So right now, he was getting other people to support him, even though he had the strength. So that way, when he gets older, he still has strength. Something incredible. It's like, I don't
know if that's applicable.
So, the people that work, it's twice a week. Yeah? So let's see like this. Says the Gemara, he says, 1 second, I thought that it's written in Polim is only once a week, not twice a week. So Amar Rabbi Yossi bar Chanina says Rabbi Yossi bar Chanina, La kashya, it's not a question. Kan be'osin melacha beiran, kan be'osin melacha beiracheret. Which means like this. If they're doing the work in their own city, so then it's going to be pamayim b'shavua. He says, but if they're doing the work in another city, even though they go to their houses to sleep, it's only going to be once a week because the Torah Chaderech is Matishet Kocham. So you see from here that just traveling makes a person weak. So the fact that traveling makes a person weak, but he's going home to sleep every single night, doesn't matter. Once a week. Once a week. If he's in the same city working, twice a week. The Tanya Miyachi, we also learn this in Braita, Hapoalim Shtayim B'Shabbat, twice a week. It's going to be once a week. Okay. Next. Chamarim.
Where do we put it?
Chamarim. Right? We're talking about now the Chamarim. Remember that the Chamarim, it's only going to be once a week. Why? The Chamarim, basically what they would have to do is they would come and take all the wheat and everything. They would take it on their donkeys and they would go sell it in another country. Okay? So therefore, it's only going to be once, right, a week. So Elmaleh Rav Chanan Abaye says Rav Chanan to Abaye Ikapal Tana says what is it? Why is the Tana coming and still speaking about right the words of Bet Hillel that he says somebody's going to take away from his wife? So therefore, even if it's going to be 1 week, he's obligated to come and to divorce her. Lashmin and Tayalu Poel, is he coming? Teach us what's halacha by a Tayal and a Poel, right? Which is doing it, which you already know that their ona is going to be more than once a week. V'gabarnu, okay. Which means, why is it just saying Amadirat Ishto, right? Which is only talking about Tayalim and Poalim. Everybody else is not going to be, it's only going to be once a week. So what's the problem? Right? A person comes, he says he doesn't want to give to his wife relations, right? If it's going to be for 1 week, okay, there's no problem because it's only 1 week. So Elmaleh says, no. What are we talking about? We're not talking about only Tayalim and Poalim. Ella, but rather, Samchbet Amubet, Akulhu. We're talking about everybody in the Melachat, which means even Chamarim, Gammalim, and Sepanim, which if they came and they went and they made a neder that they're not going to give their wives relations for more than a week, they're obligated to divorce. Now the question is, 2 weeks was Bet Shammai. Bet Hillel was 1 week, right? So says the Gemara, but 1 second, why in the world would that be so? You have this guy that he's a sailor, right? He's on the boat. You understand? He's once every 6 months. So why in the world, if he now comes and he makes a neder, and he says he's making a neder, he's not going to give his wife relations for a week, well, obligated to divorce her, give her the ketubah. Anyway, it's once every 6 months. What's going on? Answers the Gemara, Eno dome mi sheyesh lo pat besalo, mi she'en lo pat besalo. A person that's fasting, if he has bread in his basket, he doesn't feel the same hunger, right? Because he's got the bread there. The bread is right there, right? But if he doesn't have bread in the basket, so then mamash, he feels very, very hungry. Oto davar, says the halacha, it's exact same halacha to do with the wife of a sailor. For her, she could withstand the 6 months, knowing that technically speaking, he could come whenever he wants. You understand? He could come back, and then he could have relations with her. But the second that he prohibits the relations onto her, now she feels abandoned. She feels that now it's something different. Why? Because now you prohibited it onto her. So therefore, it's going to be a problem. Okay?
Somebody doing neder.
Elmaleh Rabba bar Rav Chanan Abaye. Says Rabba bar Chanan to Abaye, Chamar v'na'asa gamal mai. What's halacha if a person changes his job? Yeah, if a person changes his job. Before, he was a chamar. So the chamar was once a week, correct?
And now
was once a week. And now he's becoming a gamal, which is actually going to be less, because the gamal, I think, was
2 weeks.
once every 2 weeks, right? So therefore, it's more. So he comes and he says, "My what's halacha?" Right? Is he allowed to do that or not? Because basically, what does a woman prefer? A woman prefers more parnasah or more relations? That's the question. Does a woman prefer more parnasah or more relations?
Both.
Right? Why? Because if you're going to tell me maybe it's more parnasah, right? So therefore, let's see what it is. So Elmaleh, he answers. This is what Abaye is answering. Rotsa isha bekav v'tiflut me'asara kabinut rishut. A woman would prefer 1 midah, 1 kav, and she would be able to have her husband always with her, v'tiflut, to have her husband with her for relations, than to have 10 kabin of parnasah but the husband's never there, basically. So therefore, you see from here that a woman would prefer, right, ona, right, more than parnasa. Yeah? Okay? So, sapanim. We're talking about now sapanim. What are sapanim? Sailors. So he said that the sailors was once every 6 months. These are the words of Rabbi Eliezer. Amar Rav Bruna Marav, says Rav Bruna named Rav. Halakha Rabbi Eliezer, the halakha like Rabbi Eliezer, that basically the Talmidim could go out, right, for 30 days. Okay, without any problem. So therefore, they could go out for 30 days without any problem. So Amar Rav Rav says Rav Rav, Zod Rabbi Eliezer, these were words of Rabbi Eliezer. אבל חכמים אומרים, חכמים say, תלמידים יוצאים לתלמוד תורה 2 ו3 שנים שלא ברשות. Without permission. We're not talking about with permission. Because before, if you remember, we were talking about that it was with permission, right? We're talking about without permission. Shitat Chachamim, a student could go out for 2 and 3 years to go and learn. And he's not going to be with his wife. Without permission. We're not talking about with permission. But with permission, for sure. Okay? That's what he says over here. Okay, so that's okay. So all this here it says the Kavanah Ravada Barava is actually in the name of Rav is to be posek like the Chachamim, right? So therefore that's why the Rashash had the Girsah the Rosh Hashanah, right? Okay, fine. Okay, so this is what they say. So Amar Rava says Samchur Rabbanan ad Ravada Barava the Avdi Uvda ben Avshayo. Many of the rabbis they did like the words of Ravada Barava, which means that that's Shitat Chachamim, and therefore that's what they did. So they would come and they would go, right? They would actually do it. Okay? Right? But, right, many times, since they did this, they were actually punished for it. Right? What does that mean? Here he says that, okay, there are some people that actually paskin like Ravada Barava, right? Because the Gemara actually says that there were some people that they did it l'maseh, and even though they were punished for it, right? And other people want to say, no, that at the end of the day, you have to suspect for the suffering of the woman, and because of that, it's going to be a problem, right? So what happened? For example, Rav Rechume was always found by Rabbi Mechuza. He used to come every single Erev Kippur. So imagine, he used to come home once a year. Yeah, every Erev Kippur. Erev Kippur used to come home. Yeah, every Erev Kippur. Yom Achad, it once happened, Meshachta Shmata, that it was Erev Kippur, and he got stuck in a sugya. And he didn't come back yet. Hava Mesachya Davitu. So the wife was waiting and saying, Hashtata, he's coming now, he's coming now, he's coming now. Luata, he didn't come. Chalashtata, right? So what happened? She was upset. She got upset. The Achid Dimata, and a tear came down from her face, not from her eyes. Haviyati the Igra, he was in the 2nd floor. He was on the top floor. Ipchit Igra Metute. The floor caved in, and Nachnaf Sheni died. Yeah, so if you remember, right? If you remember though, here it says that the Sichom Musar comes and explains why was he punished like this, right? If you remember, we explained, right, that the explanation was, right, this is a few years ago, right? We explained that the explanation is that the rabbis always understood the importance of what it is, l'sameach ishto lidvar mitzvah. Which means, right, what we say translated in English, foreplay, which means that before a person does a mitzvah, he has to get her excited. He has to get her, right, very, very, how do you call it, aroused. So therefore, right, it was impossible because if a person comes and he has relations with his wife without beforehand trying to get her excited, what happens is that it's like that he's a lion, right, that he comes and he's toref ve'ochel, which means he just grabs its prey and he eats it alive, which means that the first you have to come and you have to do everything beforehand, right? And after doing everything beforehand, then you could have the relations, not just chick-chat, right? You go for the kill, right? And that's it. So because of that, they would always have to come early, right? And then what happens is that they would be able to come and to make her happy, to get her excited. Now, the problem is, if he didn't come, and all of a sudden now what happens is, right, is he comes right away. So what happens? So now all of a sudden, he wasn't able to do so. So because of that, he was actually punished. And that's what we're going to actually understand also in the continuation as well. Okay? Onav Tamidei Chachamim. Onav Tamidei Chachamim. Emat, when is it? Amar Rav Yehuda Amar Shmuel, Me'erev Shabbat le'erev Shabbat. From Erev Shabbat to Erev Shabbat. Why? Because it says in the Gemara, Asher pidyo item beito. What does that mean? That the fruits you're going to give it in the proper time. So Amar Rav Yehuda, right, says Rav Yehuda v'itam Rav Huna v'itam Rav Nachman. We're talking about netinat pri right? Which is basically the concept of giving over fruits, which is like the relations, which gives over the fruits. The pasuk is telling it that it should be the time of mat'im. What is that? On Leil Shabbat, because that's Priya Batin, right? Just like it says, Hine Nachalat Hashem Banim Sechar Priya Batin. So therefore, that's talking about the et of the Ona, and the et of the Chachamim is made of Shabbat, le'erev Shabbat. Yehuda bered Reb Chia chat nid Reb Yanai v'az v'yatu v'rav. Right? Yehuda, the son of Reb Chia, the chatan of Reb Yanai, used to go and sit in front of the Beit HaMidrash the entire week. V'chol b'shim Shabbat every single Shabbat. He used to come home, right? Now again, is what I told you before. Okay, so he used to come home every single Erev Shabbat. Some people say you finish Mashot, some people say it's beforehand. Okay, fine. It says, so when he used to come, you always used to see an amud of fire. Yom Achad, the king once happened. He started getting, lost in his learning. So now all of a sudden, since there was no siman of the amud esh, Amalu Rabbi says, he died. He passed away. Elmaleh Yehuda kayam, as if Yehuda was here, lo bitel onato. He wouldn't have been mevatel laona. Now, what was the proof that I told you before? And this we taught you guys, if you remember, in your house a few years ago. Why? Why was he mevatel onato? What's the big deal? Fine. He comes home still, and he has relations that Friday night. Why was he mevatel onato? But no, because the ona does not start with the relations. The ona starts from before. That's the ona. The ona is already from before. So the fact that he didn't come home early on Erev Shabbat, even if he would come home on Shabbat and have relations, he was mevatel onato. He wasn't mekayem the mitzvah of ona. So therefore he comes and he says, right? Havai kishkaga shiyotze milifnei shalit. It was like a mistake that came out of the mouth of the master. And what happened? Nach nafsheh. Meaning really, be'emet, he didn't die. He was a chai v'kayam. He was learning Torah. He got lost in his learning. He got distracted and he went into his learning. He says, no. But the fact that the other rabbi said that if he was alive, he would have been here, right? He understood that. And that's why it's so important, right, of a person as well. Okay? The person has to pay attention to that. Okay? Fine. So Rabbi was osek for the son of the house of Reb Chia, which means he was trying to get his son married off to the daughter of Reb Chia. Kimata lemichtav ketubah, right? So now when it came the time to write the ketubah, nach nafshed ravita. So now the kala passed away. Amar Rabbi says, chas shalom pesulaika. Says what? Maybe there's a psul in the family that they weren't, something's wrong. Yativu ve'enu b'mishpachot. Right? And they found out that Rabbi Ati Mishefatia ben Avital. Do you know that happened? That they found out that Rabbi came, the Kala died. Okay, so again, Rabbi is doing for his son, getting married to the daughter of Rabbi Chia. When it came to the time of the Ketubah, she passed away. The Kala passed away.
So what did he find out?
So he went and he said, there's something wrong here. So they started being Mayan, and they found out that Rabbi came from the family of Shefatia ben Avital. That was a wife of David. Okay, Shefatia was the son of David from Avital. So it comes out that his son, the son of Rabbi, that came from David HaMelech, Rabbi Chia Ati Mishim'i Achi David. He came from Shim'i, the brother of David. So therefore, since it wasn't the daughter, it means basically, since the daughter of Rabbi Chia was not from Zera Melucha, she wasn't fitting to get married to the son of Rabbi. You understood? That means basically because
brother of David?
It was the brother, but it wasn't from the family of David HaMelech. Meaning, from David HaMelech, it was fitting that they had to become from Melucha. So therefore, since Rabbi comes from the David HaMelech, which means from Melucha, but Rabbi Chia comes from the brother of David HaMelech, but it's not Melucha. So therefore, the daughter of Rabbi Chia was not fitting to get married to the son of Rabbi. Okay? The Oziel. So Rabbi went. So he went and he was going to get his son married to Rabbi Yosef ben Zimra. Okay, so he comes and he says, right? So he comes and he says, like, okay, some people say that he was also miuchas to David HaMelech, right? There's a whole thing down here. Okay, so paskule tartes reshnim lemeza beverav. So they were kovea, right, for the chatan, that before the marriage he could go learn 12 years in the Bet HaMidrash. Yeah. So achlefuhu kame, right? They went and they brought the rusa in front of the chatan, and he saw how beautiful she was. Amar lehu, they told the chatan, nevu shit shenim, right? It should only be 6 years. So all of a sudden now the Chatan comes and says, you know what, I'm only going 6 years. Right? Why? He saw how beautiful she was. They told him you could go 12 years. All of a sudden they brought her in front of him. He looks, so he says, you know what, I'll only go for 6 years. Right? Again, they brought her in front of him. All of a sudden he tells them, you know what, let me get married and then I'll go. I said, let me get married and then I'll go to learn Torah. However, though the Chatan was embarrassed from his father, because his father, Rabbi, in a sense of what? Because he loved his Kala so much, he's going to come and he's not going to learn it all before his marriage. Elmaleh, so the father told him, Beni, dat konecha yeshbecha. You have the dat like HaKadosh Baruch Hu. What does that mean? Because at the beginning, HaKadosh Baruch Hu said he's going to do the chuppah with Bnei Yisrael le'achar zman, but he loved them so much, he did it earlier. Why? Me'ikar ha'ktiv was at the beginning, it's written, Teviemo v'titaemo ve'anachalatecha machon hashivtecha palta Adonai mikedash. Right? Adonai kol noyedecha. What does that mean? So it's mashma, HaKadosh Baruch Hu first wanted to bring them into Eretz Yisrael, right? And then afterwards, right, to give them the Bet HaMikdash. Ulvasof ketiv, but then afterwards, what was it written? He gave them the Mishkan when they were still in the desert. So see from that even HaKadosh Baruch Hu did the exact same thing. Okay, so Oziel, so after the marriage, so that's exactly, so they met, that means the son, he was embarrassed of the father. Then afterwards the father said, you have the dot of your creator. HaKadosh Baruch Hu bichodo be'atzmo did the exact same thing. So what happened? He went and he sits down. So he comes and he's sitting down for the 12 years in the Bet HaMikdash of Rav. Ad de'ata, until he came home, his wife became sterile. Right? Here it says, Rashi in Yevamot says, that women that do not have relations for 10 years, right, they become sterile. So all of a sudden he comes home after 12 years, and the wife is sterile.
How long?
Amar, 10 years, Rashi says, but here it was 12 years that he was away. So Amar Rabbi, so Rabbi comes and he says, right, Echi Navid, right, 1 second, how am I going to do now for my son in order that he should have children? Negarsha, right, if right now he's going to divorce her and get married to another woman, Yomru, people are going to say, Aniya zol shav shimra. He says, look at this Aniya. Look what he did. He comes, he takes a wife, he tells her to wait 12 years in order for him to go to yeshiva. When he comes back, she's automatically sterile. And now what? Now he's going to throw her out and get somebody else in order to have children? What's going on? Right? He's going to get married to another woman. Yomru zo ishto v'zu zonato. They're going to say now, by the what? That the second wife is the true wife, right? Like the pilegesh, what you talking about before. Yeah, the second wife is his true wife, and the other one is his zona, right? Just for tashmish, right? So what happened? He came and he started praying for the fuah shelema, and she was cured, and then she was able to have right children. Okay, Baruch Hashem. Another story very similar. Of Hanania ben Chachinai v'Kazel beRav. Hanania ben Chachinai was going to the academy of Rav. The Shile Lule, right towards the end of the wedding. The B'Shimon Yochai. Amalei Yaakov li adati badach. He says, wait until we're going to come to the Bet HaMikdash, which means wait until we finish the chuppah and then we go to the Bet HaMikdash. Lo yakvele. He didn't wait for him. He went and waited 12 years. He went to learn in the Bet HaMikdash. Adati until he came back. Ishtanu shvile demata. All the he didn't even know how to go to his house. Right after 12 years, he came back to the city. He changed the roads. They changed the days. He's looking. He doesn't even know where his house is. Yeah. Azel yativ aguda dinara. So he went on Svatanan. He heard right that they were calling. Right, this is nara bat chachinai mali kultach v'tanizil. Fill up your jug and let's go. Amar, he says, Shema minai Ravita didan. He says, you know what? This girl is my girl. This girl, right? That she's now 12 years old. She's mine, right? Azal batra. So he went after her. Havayativa devitu, right? And what happened? The wife was sitting. Kanala kimcha. She was making kemach. Dale nachazite. She picked up her eyes and she saw him. Sav veliba. She saw him, and all of a sudden she recognized him. Parach racha. She died because she was all, she got a shock. She died. Amar lefanav ibno shulam aniyazud zeschara. He comes and says, "What? This is her reward." He went and he revived her. He did tchiyat hametim. He revived her. Rabbi Chama bar Bisa. By the way, this is the reason why you're not supposed to ever come unannounced. right? Sometimes people want to do, the surprise. Is that? To be very, very careful. Rabbi Chama. Yes. Yeah, well, 100%. Rabbi Chama. Barbisa az liyati treisere shenem vet midrash. So he went and he told Rabbi Chama Barbisa, he stayed, right, 12 years in the Bet Midrash. Kiata, when he went, he came back, he said, Lo avi kida'avi ben chachinai. I'm not going to do like ben chachinai. He went in the Bet Midrash. V'shalach lebeten, he sent his wife, right? Ata Rabbi Yoshia b'rei, right? So Rabbi Yeshua comes, Yativ kameh, he comes in front of him. Have a kamisha l'shem shmata. He was asking him. So his son was asking him gimarot, he's asking him questions. He said, wow, look how sharp you are, right? So he says, Chalash tate. He was like all upset. Amar iavai hacha. If I would have been here, I would have a child like this. You understand what happened? It was his own son. His own son was asking him questions, and he starts saying, wow, look at this boy. He didn't know it was his own son. So he says, if I would have been here, I would have had a child like that. Al levete, he went to his house, al bre, but his son is coming after him. V'kam kameh. So Rabbi Chama got up in front of the boy. He got up like to give him kavod. He thought that he was asking him, a question. Amra le devitu, right? The wife comes and tells him, Mika abba dekai mika bebera. I don't understand. Since when does the father get up in front of the son? What's going on? What are you doing? Kadi ale. So all of a sudden he went and he said, Rabbi Chama, hachutam shulash lo bimina yinate. The chutam shulash, when you have a chut which is made out of the, when it's intertwined, right, with the different meaning, it's not just one string. They come and they make it intertwined. When it's chutam shulash, it doesn't tear easily. Why? Because you had 3 dorot. They were learning Torah one after another words, so for sure that they're going to continue learning Torah. Rabbi Akiva Raya, the Ben Kalba Savua. Do you know that Rabbi Akiva, he was a shepherd of Ben Kalba Savua. Remember, Ben Kalba Savua was one of the richest people in the world. Yeah. Chazite Barate. So the daughter of Ben Kalba Savua saw that that he was sanua v'tov. Now remember, he was an Ama'aretz during this time, but she saw that he was sanua and tov. Why? Because as long as he was sanua and he had good midot, that was everything. Now remember, she's the daughter of one of the richest people in the world. She could have had any chatan in the world. Anything she wants, she could have had. Amra le, she tells him, Imika chana lach azal berab. She comes and she tells Rabbi Akiva, if I get married to you, go learn Torah. Amar le, he says, in yes. She got married hidingly. She sent it to the Bet Midrash. Shama avua, the father heard of it. He threw her out of the house. And he went, he was said all the properties. He disowned her. Nothing. Now that she gets the wallow. What happened? He went 12 years in the Bet Midrash. When he came back, he came back with 12,000 students. So he heard this zaken that he was saying to his wife, right? Ad kama kamedaberet almanut chayim, right? Well, until when are you going to become an almanah? Right now, remember here it says actually people think it was the neighbor. Here it says Hahu Saba, it was zaken echad, right? That came and he says, "I'm giving mudala from top." Right? When are you going to be like an almanah with other husband? Amra le, she says, if he would listen to me, he would go back another 12 years. Amar, he went and he said, so he went and he said, look, I have permission. He went back for another 12 years. When he came back, he came back with 24,000 talmidim. Shama devitu have a kanaf alape. So therefore, the wife heard that he's coming, so she came out to greet him. Amru leshibavata. So the shchenot went and he said, "Shilu man said, go borrow clothing and put them on. Oh, you're going to come in with your poor clothing. You have nothing to your name. She was disowned from the father, right? So what? You have nothing. At least borrow clothing and go to see him." Amra lehu. She says, "Don't worry about it. Yodea tzadik nefesh mento." My husband, he knows, right? He knows my matzav, which means that even if I have nothing and I go to him with, he's going to be fine with it. When she came there, nafla lapa, she fell on her face. She was kissing his feet. How come? So now the students come and they're going to push her away. What's this woman coming and kissing the rabbi's feet? Amar lehu, he told them, shivkua, leave her. Shavke, what shavke? Shavakia, right? No, lashid. Right, leave it over. So leave her alone. Hanichula, leave her. Why? Sheli v'shelachem shelahu. Everything that I have, everything that you guys have, belongs to her. Shama. So now the father-in-law just hears there's a big rabbi that came to town. He doesn't know what it is. Amadi comes and he says, you know what? I'm gonna go. I'm gonna be matid the neder. Why? Miskena, the daughter, what? She's left with nothing so many years, 24 years. He wants to be matid the neder. Ata legabe. He comes to Rabbi Akiva. Amarle, he comes and he says, so Rabbi Akiva comes, right, and he tells him, Adaita de Gavra Rabba, if you would have known that your son-in-law would have become a big rabbi, right? Would you have done such a thing? Elmaleh, he says, Afilu perek echad, afilu halacha achat, even if you would learn one chapter, or even one halacha, I wouldn't have made such an ed. Elmaleh, he says, Anahu, I'm that person. I'm your son-in-law. He went and he fell on his face. He kissed him. He gave him half of all his properties. So, right? So the daughter of Rabbi Akiva, just like the mother, she did that to Ben Azai. That's what does that mean? She sent Ben Azai to learn for many years as well. That's what people say. The Rachel goes after the Rachel, meaning the Nekeva goes after, meaning the daughter like the mother. Just like the mother did, just like the daughter did. We're going to the Mishnah, just another minute. Rav Yosef read the Rava, Shadre Avua Liberav. So Rav Yosef, the son of Rabba, sent, right, as he says, he sent to the Bet HaMidrash, right, Lekamed of Yosef to learn Torah in front of Yosef. So Yosef, the son of Rabba, he sent to go learn by Rav Yosef. Pas Ule, he went and he said, Shishen, he has to learn for 6 years. He have a tlatchani when it was already 3 years. Mata Malayum de Kippura. He already got Erev Kippur. He says, I want to go visit my family. Shama Avui, right? The father heard about it. What happened? Shakal Mana v'nafak lape. He took out the weapons and he went out towards him. Elmaleh, he says, Zonatechani iskarta. He says, what? You came because you remember your wife and therefore you want to go with her and that's it. Or he says, Yonatechani iskarta. Zonatecha is a zona. Here it's Yonatecha, like your dove, you remembered. Itrud, right? What does that mean? Right? Right? And nobody ate Seudat Masechet. Meaning because they were arguing, whatever it is, nobody ate Seudat Masechet and it already became Yom Kippur.